The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
And what do the people who are responsible for enforcing our immigration laws, what do they think about what's going on with this massive bill that's being pushed by the Gang of Eight and really by a majority in the Senate? So I asked ICE Union President Chris Crane to be with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Tell everybody what ICE is, first of all.
ICE is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We are the interior enforcement arm of immigration. So the Border Patrol, they stand on the line down on our borders and keep people out or try to. And once they get into the United States, illegally or legally, it's the responsibility of ICE officers and agents to police those individuals.
So you folks are the front line.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
Yeah, the bottom line. And, a lot of people don't know this. 50 states, Guam, and Puerto Rico, we've got 5,000 officers and agents trying to enforce these laws. And you compare that to the Los Angeles Police Department, it's got about 10,000 officers. And we're just really kind of, set up for failure from the word go, I think.
Well, why do they keep throwing around numbers like 10,000 and 15,000, and we've massively increased the number of Border Patrol agents? That's not true, is it?
Well, they've increased the Border Patrol. I think the Border Patrol has approximately tripled since 9/11. At ICE, we've got approximately 20,000 employees. Of that, I think there's about 12,000 law enforcement officers, but it's immigration and customs enforcement, so we're in two parts. The customs folks, officers, they're dealing with, a completely separate thing for the most part, leaving just 5,000 officers and agents doing the immigration part of it.
While I have you, I want to ask you, at any given time, because, all Border Patrol agents aren't working 24/7. At any given time, how many Border Patrol agents do we have on the southern border?
That I can't tell you. Like I said, it's the Border Patrol. That's a completely separate agency from us, as much as the U.S. Marshal Service since the INS breakup. So I can't really give you that information.
All right. Now, but you are involved in the immigration issue in a big way. And first of all, I want to ask, were you consulted? Was your union consulted, since so many of your men and women have to enforce this law? Were they in the production of this statute, this would-be statute?
Yeah, absolutely not. In fact, we sent letters to the White House. We sent letters to the Gang of Eight. We participated in some events since they wouldn't listen to us. A couple of weeks ago, we ourselves and sheriffs from around the country and down on the border went to D.C. We held 2 different events in the Senate office buildings. Not one Gang of Eight member came to hear anything that we had to say. We actually, I attended a press conference that the Gang of Eight put on, and very politely and respectfully tried to ask a question during the press conference when they turned it to the Q&A section, and I was escorted out by police. So, no, they've completely shut us out of this entire process.
And why do you think that is?
Because there's an agenda. I mean, the Gang of Eight put this legislation together behind closed doors. They worked with the Chamber of Commerce. They worked with the AFL-CIO, big money, big union, people that stand to make millions off of this. Raza, a group that represents the interests of illegal aliens. They brought them in to craft this bill, and they had an agenda, they had a game plan, and the last thing they wanted was law enforcement officers that know what's going on and know what's needed to fix this problem. And how to stop this illegal immigration situation, or at least curb it off dramatically. The last thing they wanted us coming in and doing is messing up their game plan.
Absolutely unbelievable. Now, you and several other law enforcement officials or people representing law enforcement sent a letter to every member of Congress the other day, didn't you? And what did that letter say, basically?
Basically, that letter had about 30 sheriffs from around the country. We just put it out midday Monday, so we'd only had about 48 hours. This was all happening so fast. We had 30 sheriffs on board then. We've got 37 on today. And basically, that letter said to the United States Senate and House that this is a bad piece of legislation, that it does the opposite of what we need, that it will provide for legalization only and not stronger enforcement, that it's going to bring another wave of illegal immigration here, that the provisions for criminals and gang members are absolutely shocking. And that it presents a great risk to public safety as well as national security in general.
Now, over the last several years, under this current administration, has law enforcement's hands been tied?
Absolutely. I mean, to the point that, from 2008, as soon as this president came on board and this Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano, they have attempted to shut down interior enforcement. And they've done a pretty good job of it up to this point, to the point that as officers and agents, we have filed a lawsuit against the Obama administration, against Janet Napolitano, against the director of ICE, our boss, saying that, we're not asking for any money. We're not asking for anything from the taxpayers. We're saying that the President of the United States has overstepped his authority. It's his job to enforce the laws, not make laws. It's not his place to pick and choose which laws will and will not be enforced. We've taken that forward and had a lot of success with that up to this point. But we've had to do that because if you want to talk about some of them, I'll be happy to.
Give us some examples. How are they tying your hands? Because this is very important.
Okay. ICE agents cannot make street arrests. We are not allowed to go out. We have the authority to, from the laws enacted by Congress, but we cannot go out if we see a person that we suspect to be an illegal alien. We suspect them to be an illegal alien gang member or criminal. We cannot make an arrest. We are under orders to wait until they commit a crime, that they're arrested by another law enforcement agency, say local police, booked into a jail, and then once they go into a jail or once they go into a prison, then an immigration agent can go and talk to them. Once we get into the jails, the fact that they're in the United States illegally, that they've broken, they violated laws regarding illegal entry or visa overstay, the two laws, the most fundamental laws of any immigration system in the world, the two violations of law that have created 11 million illegal aliens here in the United States today. We can't enforce those laws even in a jail. We have to make sure that they've been convicted of 3 or more criminal offenses before we can even try to place them in deportation proceedings.
I take it this is a huge change from prior administrations, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a dramatic change. I mean,
so when Obama and the rest of them go on, we're doing more to enforce the border than ever before. I mean, you're telling me that's absolutely not true.
It's absolutely not true. And one of the things that we have taken away from this lawsuit is that we were able to request certain information and data that we never had before. And what that data indicates, and I hope I can explain this well, but they have shut down interior enforcement. I know they're saying every year that ICE's numbers of apprehensions and deportations we're setting records every year. For 4 years, we've been saying that's false. But now we have data that shows that since 2008, ICE arrest numbers and deportation numbers have plummeted. And what DHS is doing, because they're two separate agencies, Border Patrol is one agency, ICE is another, the Border Patrol makes an arrest on the border. And instead of taking care of that removal or deportation themselves, they turn it over to ICE. And then ICE simply does the deportation so that it shows that ICE is, basically keeping our numbers up on deportations when we're not, when our numbers are actually plummeting. So it's a shell game.
So let me be straight. Before, that wouldn't have counted in the statistics as an apprehension and deportation. You're basically grabbing the people and sending them back over the border. And now they're counting it, and that's how they're inflating these numbers in part.
That's part of it. That's a very significant part of it. That is true, that some of these are not real deportations, that they would have been people that would have just previously been turned back. And there is a significant difference between that. But the other part of it is that they are preventing us on the interior from enforcing the law. We can no longer make arrests. So while our numbers plummet, they're just bringing numbers, even if they're deportations or just the voluntary removals that you're speaking of, they're all coming into the ICE numbers that they're reporting to America and saying, look at the records that we set with ICE. I mean, I'll put it this way. I think last year, more than 50% of ICE's deportation numbers were actually Border Patrol apprehensions.
Mm-hmm. So they're lying.
Yes. And categorically, we've been saying that for 4 years, that they're lying to and misleading the American public on everything.
You're a former Marine, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you've been an ICE officer yourself, correct?
I've been an ICE officer for 10 years, yes.
Are you finding that the deceit going on here is now bipartisan? Both parties in Washington, in many respects, are doing this?
You know, I really don't know the answer to that. I know that I've been up on the Hill and testified before Congress, I think, about 6 times now. There are definitely some senators and congressmen up there that have some integrity and are working with us and meeting with us and trying to help us out. But there are many that are not. And there are some that when I go and testify before Congress, basically try to come after me.
All right, let me ask you something, because we're on. Have you met with Senator Jeff Flake?
Never. I've never met with any of the Gang of Eight except...
Let me go through it. Have you met with Senator John McCain?
No, sir.
Have you met with Senator Lindsey Graham?
No.
Have you met with Senator Marco Rubio?
Yes.
Okay. The other 3 Republicans, have you asked to meet with them?
Yes.
And you don't get a response?
No response at all.
That's absolutely unbelievable. Meanwhile, they'll meet with the National Council of La Raza, English, the race, won't they?
Yes. Yes. In
so
fact, those groups are now running our agency.
Those groups are now running the agency. How about that?
Yes. That's why we're not arresting people. That's why we can't do our jobs, is because they're basically embedded and running our agency.
Well, they're embedded in the White House. I think Obama's top appointee to handle this stuff comes out of one of these groups, doesn't she?
Yes, Cecilia Munoz, yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a disgrace. It disgusts me, to be perfectly honest with you. And I'm sorry you and your members have to go through this because, your job is to defend us. And apparently the politicians don't want you defending us. So that's a very troubling fact. And you've testified about this, so it's not like they don't know about it up on Capitol Hill. So, well, Chris Crane, I want to thank you, my friend. I know you're doing everything possible with the litigation. You'll be testifying on the Hill. You'll talk to anybody who will listen. You've spoken to us now, and we're behind you. We wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you for having us on. We appreciate it more than you know. Thank you so much.
All right. God bless and good luck. That's ICE Union President Chris Crane. That's some stunning information. Absolutely unbelievable. How in the hell are we supposed to get behind any so-called immigration bill when you just heard what Chris Crane had to say? About how their hands are tied, how the administration is lying about their numbers, how Congress is going along, how 3 out of the 4 Republicans on the Gang of 8 won't even meet with the man. Meanwhile, they'll sit down with La Raza and all the rest. I mean, how the hell are we... Folks, all hands on deck. Now's the time to fight this. And I'll talk about it more tomorrow. This is unacceptable.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.